The Sahara Desert is hiding something. Not buried treasure, not ancient tombs, an entire city, maybe several. Satellite scans have picked up rectangular grids beneath the sand. Foundations, streets, buildings arranged in patterns that don't occur naturally. NASA's radar punched through 60 meters of dune and found structures that shouldn't exist. And wait, here's the problem. Every time archaeologists try to dig, the desert buries it again. I'm not kidding. This is verifiable data showing urban layouts under one of the most hostile environments on Earth. Let me show you what's down there and why we still can't reach it. What the Sahara used to be. 6,000 years ago, the Sahara wasn't a desert. It was green. Rivers cut through grasslands. Lakes the size of England sat where dunes are now. Hippos, crocodiles, elephants, all thriving in what scientists call the African humid period. And humans were everywhere. Rock art across the Sahara shows people herding cattle, hunting giraffes, fishing in rivers that no longer exist. The Tassili Niger Plateau in Algeria has over 15,000 prehistoric paintings spanning 10,000 years of continuous habitation. Then around 3,500 BCE, the climate flipped. Not gradually, fast. The monsoon belt that brought rain to North Africa shifted south. Within 300 years, rivers dried up, lakes evaporated, and grasslands turned to sand. Civilizations that had thrived for millennia were forced to migrate or die. Most fled to the Nile Valley, which is why Egyptian civilization suddenly explodes around 3,100 BCE with no clear origin story. They didn't appear out of nowhere. They were refugees from a collapsing climate. But not everyone left. Some tried to stay, and their cities are still down there. Evidence we can't ignore. In 1982, NASA launched the Space Shuttle Columbia with shuttle imaging radar on board. The mission was routine: map geological features, test new tech. Then the radar detected something strange in southern Egypt. Beneath the sand there were channels. Not random erosion, organized river systems stretching hundreds of miles now completely buried. One channel ran 500 miles from the Gilf Kebir Plateau toward the Nile, a river that dried up over 5,000 years ago. But wait, that wasn't the weirdest part. Along these buried rivers, the radar picked up settlements. In the 1990s, follow-up surveys using ground-penetrating radar and LiDAR confirmed it. There are foundations under the sand, walls, rectangular structures arranged in grids. In some areas, the patterns are so geometric they can only be human-made. One site near the Dakhla Oasis showed a settlement spanning 2 square kilometers, buried 30 meters deep. No excavation, no confirmation of what's inside, just radar data showing something that looks disturbingly organized. And it's not the only one. Garamantes, a civilization we almost forgot. In southwestern Libya, there's a region called the Fessin. Today, it's one of the driest places on Earth. But 2,000 years ago, it was the heartland of the Garamantes civilization. You've probably never heard of them. Most people haven't, but the Romans knew them well. They called the Garamantes the lords of the desert and described their capital, Garama, as a fortified city controlling trade routes across the Sahara. Gold, salt, slaves, all moving through Garamantes' hands. For centuries, historians thought Roman accounts were exaggerated. There was no evidence of a major civilization in the Fezzan. Then in 2011, satellite imaging changed everything. Archaeologists using LiDAR and multispectral imaging found over 100 fortified settlements buried under the sand. Not small camps, towns, some with defensive walls, irrigation systems, and multi-story structures. The Garamantes had built an underground aqueduct network called Fogaras, tunnels stretching over 1,500 kilometers to tap into fossil water deep below the desert. They supported a population estimated at 100,000 people in a region that today can barely support 10,000. When the water ran out, the civilization collapsed. The desert swallowed everything, but the structures are still there, intact, waiting under 40 meters of sand. Ubar, the Atlantis of the sands. Did you know about the legend of Ubar? Islamic texts and Arabian folklore describe it as a wealthy city in the Rub al-Khali Desert, the empty quarter of the Arabian Peninsula. Technically not the Sahara, but same principle, same fate. Ubar was supposedly destroyed by God for its people's arrogance, swallowed by the desert in a single night. For centuries, explorers searched. Lawrence of Arabia mentioned it. Wilfred Thesiger, the British explorer, tried to find it in the 1940s. Nothing. Most archaeologists dismissed it as myth. Until 1992, a team led by Nicholas Clapp used declassified satellite images from a Corona spy satellite. The images showed ancient caravan routes converging on a single point in southern Oman, right where legend placed Ubar. Ground surveys confirmed it. Beneath the sand were walls, pottery, frankincense burners, and a fortress sitting on top of a limestone cavern. Ubar hadn't been swallowed by sand. It had collapsed into a sinkhole when the cavern beneath it gave way, likely caused by over-extraction of groundwater. The city was real. The myth was based on fact. And if Ubar was real, what else is down there? Structures that don't add up. In 2015, a joint European Space Agency and Egyptian survey used synthetic aperture radar to map subsurface features across the Western Desert. They found something near the Siwa oasis that doesn't fit any known settlement pattern. A grid, massive, symmetrical, buried 50 meters under sand. The layout suggests urban planning on a scale that shouldn't exist for that time period. I am talking about organized blocks, wide avenues, possible plaza spaces. But there's no record of a city there. No historical mention, no pottery on the surface, nothing. The Egyptian government hasn't authorized excavation, officially because the site is too remote and logistically impossible to dig. Unofficially because no one knows what they'd find, and uncertainty is dangerous when your economy runs on controlled archaeological narratives. So it sits, mapped, confirmed, unexplained. Why we can't dig it up? You'd think modern technology could just uncover these places. It can't. The Sahara moves. Dunes shift constantly, driven by wind patterns that can relocate millions of tons of sand in weeks. You dig a trench and it fills back in overnight. In 2007, a French-Algerian team tried to excavate a Garamonte site in the Fezzan. They brought heavy equipment, ground-penetrating radar, a full archaeological crew. 3 weeks in, a sandstorm buried the entire dig site under 4 meters of sand. They lost equipment. They lost months of work. The desert doesn't care about your schedule. There's also the heat. Summer temperatures hit 58 degrees Celsius. Machinery overheats. Humans can't work more than 20 minutes without life-threatening dehydration. And of course, as we all know, there's the political reality. Much of the Sahara spans unstable regions. Southern Libya, northern Mali, western Sudan. Rebel groups, smuggling routes, landmines from old conflicts. Even if you had the funding and tech, you couldn't guarantee safety. So the cities stay buried. We know they're there. We just can't touch them. What happens if we find something older? There's a theory, controversial but not fringe, that we've missed entire chapters of human history. Not aliens, not Atlantis. Just civilizations that rose and fell before we started writing things down. The problem with archaeology is that it's biased toward preservation. We find Egypt because stone survives. We find Rome because they wrote everything down. But if a civilization built with wood, mud brick, and organic materials in a region that later became desert, we'd have almost no trace. And Göbekli Tepe in Turkey rewrote the timeline. Built 11,500 years ago, before agriculture, before cities, before we thought humans were capable of that kind of organization. It sat under a hill for millennia. We only found it because a farmer noticed carved stones. How many Göbekli Tepes are under the Sahara? How many cities vanish so completely that we don't even have myths about them? Desert keeps its secrets. We have the technology to detect what's under the Sahara. Satellites, radar, LiDAR, all of it works. But detection isn't recovery. The sites are too deep, too remote, too politically unstable, and too expensive to excavate. And even if we could dig, the sand would fight us every step of the way. So for now, the lost cities stay lost. The Garamontes remain buried. The grids near Siwa stay unmapped. The structures that don't fit the timeline stay unexplained. The Sahara isn't keeping secrets out of malice. It's keeping them because that's what deserts do. They erase, they bury, they wait. And I think maybe that's the real lesson here. Civilizations think they're permanent. They build cities, write histories, assume they'll be remembered. But climate doesn't care about your legacy. When the rain stops, the desert comes. And 5,000 years later, all that's left is a grid on a satellite scan and archaeologists arguing about whether it's worth the cost to dig. The Sahara will give up its cities eventually. Maybe in 50 years when excavation drones can work autonomously in 60 degrees Celsius heat. Maybe in 100 when political borders shift and remote sites become accessible again. Or maybe never. Maybe the sand wins. But one way or another, those cities are still there, waiting, preserved under a moving ocean of sand. And if you want to know what's really down there, you'll have to wait too. Now I want to hear from you. If you could explore one buried city under the Sahara, knowing you might find nothing, or you might rewrite history, would you risk it? Be honest. Drop your answer below. If this made you see the desert differently, hit that subscribe button because I've got way more mysteries like this coming your way. And check out the next video right here.